Great. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Everything You Wanted to Know About USTA Leagues and Weren't Afraid to Ask. We're going to get started well, first of all, I'm Monica Lemura, Director of Marketing and Communications at USTA Eastern. We have some fun planned for this session. We're going to actually kick things off with our partner, Mount Sinai. We have Dr. Alexis Colvin here to give you some background on a recently published league study. She was one of the co-authors and can provide some great insight in terms of the methodology and the results of that study. We also have Dave Hansies here live, who's going to be giving some great context in terms of some of the league rules and regulations, and really get into a great discussion for our league players about what's coming down next year, a little bit of a recap of last year, and just hopefully have a really great discussion with everyone tonight on the line. So to kick things off, I'm actually going to introduce Katie Parker. Katie is the Director of Strategic Partnerships with Mount Sinai Health Systems. We've had some really great collaborations with our partner Mount Sinai over the past few years. We've had numerous partner engagements with Mount Sinai physicians, and with Dr. Colvin specifically. She's been able to MC and host one of our junior awards ceremonies at our Eastern Conference a couple years ago, which was great. So to kick things off, Katie's going to take everyone through a few trivia questions. What we're going to do is anyone who has what they think could be the right answer to type their name first, their full name, and answer into the message box here. And then if we select you as the correct person who gets that answer right, to email me, and I'm at lemura@eastern.usta.com, and we'll get you your prize that way. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Katie, to launch the trivia.
Great. Thank you, Monica, for such a nice introduction. As Monica mentioned, I'm Katie Parker, Director of Strategic Partnerships for the Mount Sinai Health System. We're a health system based mainly in New York City with 8 hospitals and a medical school, as well as a large ambulatory footprint. And we have additional practices in the surrounding New York City area, Long Island, and West Palm Beach, Florida. So I'll kick it off with some trivia. So the first question we have for you today is, what was the first year that Mount Sinai began partnering with the U.S. Tennis Association? So go ahead and submit the answers, and we'll call out the first right answer. Nope, that's a good guess, but not yet. 1979, not quite that far back. 2016 is a little closer. 2019, we're getting a little further away to give some hints. 2014 is very close. '15, not quite. 2013, we got it. Millie is the winner of that. Thank you, Millie. So go ahead and send Monica your address and we'll get you a little prize. All right, on to question 2. We have, all right, what does Mount Sinai give away to US Open attendees at our on-site kiosks? Does anybody know what we do at the US Open? That's right, Andrew Weiss, sunscreen, correct. We give out sunscreen and also hand sanitizers at our US Open kiosks on site during the tournament. Of course, 2020 was a little different. We weren't on site, but we will be back hopefully in 2021. All right, and question number 3. In addition to orthopedics and sports medicine physicians, name another specialty that Mount Sinai has had representing the medical services team on site at the US Open tournament. We have quite a few, so first guess wins. Emergency medicine, that's correct, Ed. Great job, everybody. All right, so that's the end of our trivia portion. So thanks everyone who participated. Winners, just a reminder, make sure to email Monica with your address and we'll ship out your prizes. And if anyone has any questions about Mount Sinai's partnership, you can please feel free to connect with me. Monica can make that connection for you as well. And without further ado, I'll turn it back to Monica to introduce Dr. Colvin.
Thank you so much, Katie. And we're so lucky to have Dr. Colvin with us tonight. She is the Chief Medical Officer of the US Open. She's also the US Billie Jean King Cup team physician. She's also an orthopedic surgeon at Mount Sinai, and I know that she's also a boy mom. So she has a lot going on, a lot on her plate, and she's just wonderful, and I know wants to talk about the study that she co-authored this year that has great relevance to all of our league players. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to you, Dr. Colvin, and thanks so much again for being here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. So this study I'm really excited to talk about because it really is about you, the league's players. And just for your reference, it actually has been published in a journal actually last year. So if you want to take a look at the full study, it's in the Journal of Tennis and Science and Medicine. So the purpose of the study was to look at the general health of the recreational tennis playing population. So we know that in general, tennis players are healthier. And in fact, any sort of exercise in general helps make you healthier. But I really wanted to prove it in an objective way. And so the first step in doing any study is to get IRB approval. So this was IRB approved. That means that the research is allowed to be conducted. And the gold standard for looking at general health is with this survey called the SF36. It's called the short form 36. It's used in a number of studies. It's been around for years, mainly looking actually at different conditions like heart disease or diabetes. But the nice thing about it is that because it's been around for so long, it's a validated questionnaire, and the actual normative values, so the values on this scale exist for general people. So we have something to compare it to. The other questions that I also wanted to add in were people's age and gender in terms of who makes up the leagues, how many days of tennis per week people are playing, what their rating is, does it have anything to do with their health, whether or not there are any smokers in the group, and BMI. Next slide, please. So the SF36, this questionnaire that was used, has a number of different factors in it. And I'm not going to read through them here, but it's basically to show you that it's not just physical capability, it's also social and mental, so it's and emotional. So health is made up of all of those things, as we know, and so they're all important in terms of looking at, is the tennis playing league population actually healthier than the general population? Next slide, please. So the actual number of leagues members is a little bit over 300,000 players. And we had about 10,000 respondents who filled out the entire survey. So thank you if you were one of them. It was actually sent out a few years ago. And while 10,000 out of 300,000 may not seem like a lot, in a medical study, it's actually a huge amount. There's never been a tennis specific study with these kind of numbers. And I would say probably actually not even for any other sport. So it's a huge number, which is fantastic. Females made up about 63% of the answering population. And just in terms of some important details, BMI, so body mass index, which can be a measure of obesity and being overweight, the average was 24 kilograms per meter squared, but the normal is actually 18 to 25. So BMI was actually within the normal range for, again, 10,000, a group of 10,000 plus. So that's pretty incredible. A huge number, not surprisingly, 97.7% reported that tennis helps to manage their health. And in general, the USTA scores, so leagues players were higher than all the general normative values for all of those domains that I just showed you before. So in general, leagues players scored higher on social, emotional, physical, and mental well-being. Next slide, please. So just to break it down in terms of the trends, we did see higher scores in all of those categories for younger athletes. And actually athletes who played tennis more than 3 times a week tended to score a little bit higher. And then elite tennis players, those who had a ranking greater than 4, also had a higher score as well. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, like I said, this is definitely the largest study of its kind. And you can take pride in the fact that USTA League's players are healthier, again, in all those categories versus the general population. In terms of who specifically is maybe scores slightly better are those who are younger, who play more than 3 times a week, and those who have a rating of 4 or higher. And then just one final tidbit, which I thought was interesting, was that smokers only made up 1.4% of the answering population, which is, as a physician, I would say that's really something to be proud of. So thanks for taking the time to listen. And if you answered the questionnaire, again, thank you for participating. I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any. Otherwise, I'll turn it over back to Monica.
And please feel free to utilize the chat for questions.
All right, great. I think it's reinforcing really what we want to know, which we already know, which is that tennis players in general, because of their active lifestyle, are healthier than the general population. So keep doing what you're doing. And I think it's further reinforcement that tennis is really a great sport. Oh, let's see, how does tennis rank with other sports? That's a great question. And I have to tell you that no other sport has this many numbers of people. So they've done a similar study in NC2A athletes, but in terms of a sport specific study, no one else has 10,000 people in that group. So I would say tennis is really a first in terms of showing how healthy the participants can be really at a recreational level.
And we have one more question, Dr. Colvin. What age were children that filled out the form, or did their parents?
No children. It was leagues players only. So only 18 and older. In general, it was about the majority of people answering were between 40 to 60 years old. Someone's asking if the study will be on the Eastern website. I can send Monica the link to the study because like I said, it is published in a journal so that people can take a look at it at their own time.
And we can send out this presentation, the links, any other assets that sort of come about with this particular presentation to all attendees after the conference as well. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Colvin and Katie. We really appreciate your time. So I guess I will kick it. Oh, is there any information about court surface and body?
There are a lot of studies looking at surfaces.
Impact on body.
Yeah, surfaces and injuries. I would say because the numbers are so small, it can be difficult to make conclusions. We certainly see it with information from the ATP as well as the WTA, but the studies tend to be really small, so it's hard to draw firm conclusions from it.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Colvin. All right, over to you, Dave. Our section chair of officials.
All right, good evening, everyone. Certainly, it's great to be participating in this portion of the meeting. And what Lauren and Susan asked me to do is come up with some questions, some frequently asked questions that we get from players in regards to the rules. So we looked at some of the questions that you submitted during your registration process, as well as some, again, questions that I normally get a lot of and put them together. So kind of put them together in a poll fashion so we can have everyone take a look at them. We're not recording your answers, so we're not going to give you a bad grade or anything if you miss some questions. If you're not sure, I'd ask you just to guess and tell or just put the first answer that comes to your mind. So With that said, we'll go ahead and we'll launch the first poll. All right, so what is the first preferred method of resolving a scoring dispute? So I see some answers rolling in. You guys are on top of this. So the choices are: count all the points in games agreed upon by the players and replay only the disputed points, start the game over at love, play from a mutually agreed upon score, spin a racket, or ask a spectator on a neighboring court what they think the score is. I'm happy to report that no one has selected E so far, which is ask a spectator. So we'll give it just another few seconds here, and we'll close out the poll. Then we'll review the answers. So last call here to answer. All right, so we'll go ahead and end the poll, and the correct answer is actually letter A, to count all the points in games agreed upon by the players, and you just simply replay only the disputed games and points. And I know in most cases people think it's easier to go back to a mutually agreed upon score, but in forensic court it clearly states that all points played in good faith that everyone agrees upon should stand. So if you're in a game and you just can't agree on who won the first point, but you agree on who won the other points, those points should stand instead of going back to love or the beginning of the game. So we were close there. We had 19 people, or 45%, have the correct answer, followed by 52% saying to play from a mutually agreed upon game. All right, let's move on to number 2. And all right, bear with me here. All right. So the second poll is during a match with no athletic trainer available, a player twists her ankle. Who can treat the player's ankle? So no one, since there's no athletic trainer at this event. The USTA official, spectator, or the player may treat him or herself. And then letter E is both C and D. So we do have some answers rolling in. We have about 20 people. So we'll give it a few more seconds. We're up to 40% of the people. So who can treat the player? Most of the adult league events we do, there's not an athletic trainer at your local league play. So again, this question comes up a good bit of the time. All right. So we do have 56% of the people, or 20 people, selected both C and D. So that is the correct answer, both C and D. The forensic court states that any person who the player elects may treat the official. So, or it also says the player may treat themselves. So, maybe they don't have anybody there, you can treat yourself, or you can select someone to actually come out and do the treatment. So the correct answer is both C and D. The USTA official should not treat any injuries unless it's a life-threatening type of a situation. But as a USTA official, we should not be providing any diagnosis or any treatment out there on the court. All right, let's move on to number 3. Let me launch it. All right, how long is the medical timeout for treatment? And this would be treatment for the person with the twisted ankle from the previous example. So it's automatic 15 minutes they receive. Is it 3 minutes of treatment? Is it 2 minutes of evaluation and 3 minutes of treatment? Is it 10 minutes of treatment time? Or is it however long the player needs? If they need 20 minutes, we'll give them 20 minutes. We have about 35% of the people responded. So we are doing good. It's looking pretty good. And let's give it just another few seconds here to give everyone a chance to respond. Right, so the correct answer is letter B. 21% of the people chose B, and that's 3 minutes for a medical treatment. And now that I said that, I see a couple more people clipping in there and selecting B. The evaluation time only comes into play if there's an athletic trainer there. If an athletic trainer is there, they can use evaluation time. When there's no athletic trainer, it's just the 3 minutes of treatment time. And it's not an automatic 15 minutes. The friend at court will tell you it's up to 15 minutes, but it's never an automatic 15 minutes. And the true treatment time should be limited to the 3 minutes. All right, number 4. Which of the following situations would not be considered a code violation under the point penalty system? So which of the following is not considered a code violation? And keep in mind, a code violation would be when there's an official there who's actually going to code a player. First offense being a point penalty, the second a game, and the third may be a default, depending on what you do. And kind of got a landslide going here. So we got 65% of the people reporting, and everyone selected the correct answer, which is letter C. Breaking a string while serving is not a code violation. However, everything else is. Racket abuse, audible, visible coaching is not permitted. Audible profanities or obscenities, and any abusive conduct by a player or a person associated with a player would be a codable offense. So everyone got that answer correct. And also just keep in mind, in the new friend at court that came out, the point penalty system does apply to adult matches. It used to apply just to junior events, but now it will apply to any adult event. So that would be in any adult event where there would be an official being used that would give a code, there would be suspension points that would be assigned. All right. Moving right ahead to number 5. Which of the following situations would not be considered abusive conduct by a person associated with the player? So as I mentioned earlier in the previous poll, you can receive a code violation for the person that's there with you, whether that's your spectator or your family member or coach or whoever's there with you. If they're giving abusive behavior, you can be coded on court for that. So we got 40, 50, 53% of the people responding, 60%, 67. Moving right up there. So we got about 40 people out of the 56 here that responded. 93% of the people got the correct answer, which is cheering a good shot for an opponent would not be something that would be considered abusive conduct. Yelling negative comments to the opponent, confronting the opponent, pounding on the glass of the observation area, or interfering with the match, commenting on line calls or on rules of tennis would be considered a abusive conduct. Good job there. Number 6, what happens when a player reverses their out call to good? So when you're playing, in an unofficiated match, and you make that out call, and then you look at it again and say, no, really, that ball was good. What should you do? I guess I got to launch that there. All right, there's the answers. Point is always replayed. The point's only replayed if the player had a play on the ball. Point goes to the opponent. Spin a racket or toss a coin. Or lastly, just act like it never happened and play on. So we got 58, 62% responding. Look like we're heavily trending to number or letter C. We'll give it just another few seconds here. All right, we're at 73%. And the correct answer is C. The point goes to the opponent. The opponent is never replayed. If you can remember back many years ago, it was if the player had a return on the ball, then you would replay it. But the rule has since changed. If you make an out call and then you correct it to good, the point goes to the opponents. So that's a correct answer there. Next question. If a player is not in a good position to make a call on a shot landing on their end of the court, the player should call a let and replay the point, call it good, ask a spectator who's watching the match if they saw it, or call it out when in doubt. All right, we got 58, 66%, 71% responding, 73%. So great job. The correct answer is call the shot good. If you can't see it, if you don't see it, you have to call it good. You can't replay the point. You can't ask somebody off the court. And certainly it's not call it out when you're in doubt. So great job there. You guys are doing good. Number 8. Number 8 is who can call a let on a court when a ball rolls onto your court from another court? And I do get this question a lot. So is it any player on that court? A player from a neighboring court? Is it a spectator watching the match? Or only the player on whose side of the court the ball comes onto can call the a let? And usually when we're playing, with neighboring courts and balls are flying all over the place, balls are coming on from different courts. So this question comes up a lot. Who can call that let? I get called the court a lot with people asking this question. And we have about 70% of the people responding. 83% of the people, 84% of the people got it correct. Any player on the court. So if you're playing doubles, all 4 of you on that court can call it. Spectators from neighboring courts, or players, I should say, on neighboring courts should not call lets. That's up to the players on that specific court to call it. But the correct answer is any player on that court. So great job there. And on to number 9. Who can call a service let? So a spectator who clearly hears and sees the service let can call it. Only the receiver can call a service let. Only the server can call a service let, or any player on that court can call a service let. So when the server's serving and it just ticks the net and comes over, who can call who can call that let? All right, we got 67, 70%, 74, 76. You guys are all ready to sign up to be USTA officials. This is great. 79% of the people answered it correctly. It's any player on the court. So sometimes they think it's only the receiver. However, it's any player on the court. Even the server can call it. With both let calls from the previous poll and this call, the key to it is it needs to be called immediately. So you can't, think it hits the net and then, volley it and then say, well, I think that serve was a let. It has to be called immediately. Same with the ball coming on from another court. You can't wait until you volley a couple times and then try to call that try to call that let. So it needs to be called immediately. All right, the next one. Which of the following is considered coaching and is not permitted? As you're aware, in league tennis, there's no coaching permitted. So receiving communications on a cell phone or a smartwatch, can you do that? Hand signals, is that considered coaching? What if someone yells, hit to his backhand? What if someone yells, move your feet? Or all of the above? So what would be considered coaching and would not be permitted? So answers are rolling in. We're at 72% of the people responded. And the correct answer is letter E, which is all of the above. So again, no communications on cell phones. If your smartwatch is able to receive communication, you really shouldn't be looking at that because that could be considered coaching. Certainly hand signals from the spectators or someone on a neighboring court yelling, that's really an instruction that you're yelling. So basically the rule says that, coaching is considered to be any communication or advice or instruction of any kind by any means to a player is considered coaching. All right, number 11. And number 11 is during a doubles match in the middle of a game, there's an error discovered in the order of receiving. So you're playing doubles and you realize that the receiving pattern was altered on the other side. What should happen? Correct as soon as it's discovered, start the game over, leave it altered till the end of the game, or yell at the players for changing positions and claim the game. Hopefully you won't do that one. But. Right, answers are rolling in there, 61, 63%. I'll give it two more seconds. Try to get to 70%. All right, we got 72%. And actually the correct answer is letter C. And it's kind of a trick question I threw in there. Most of the corrections, whenever you discover an error, is you do correct it as soon as you discover it. However, one exception to that rule, and there's a lot of exceptions in tennis, is the receiving order. If the receiving order is altered, then you do leave it altered until the end of the game. And then the next game that those individuals are receivers, they have to switch back, but you do not switch it in the middle of the game. So 6 of you did get it right, 15%. So good job there. All right, number 12. What's the maximum time allowed between points in a game? And this recently changed. So I want to see if you get the right answer. So how much time should you be taking between points? Is it up to the receiver? 25 seconds, 20 seconds? Much time as the server wants? What do you think it may be? All right, we got 80%, 81%. A lot of you participating in this one. 81% in, got the correct answer. 63% or 27 of you, the correct answer is 25 seconds. And those of you that put 20 seconds, that did change last year. So it was a recent rule change. It used to be 20 seconds, and now it's 25 seconds between the points. All right. We got just a few more here. All right, what's the correct height of the net for doubles play? So when you're playing doubles, how high should the net be in the middle? 32 inches, 36 inches, 40 inches, or 42 inches? A lot of people jumping on that. We're at 40%. 52%, 56%. How high should the net be in doubles? All right, we're at 70%. So 85% of you, or 33 of you, got the correct answer. It is 36 inches. And just a little trick that I threw in there, the height of the net should be the same in singles and doubles. There's no, it's not higher in doubles or lower in doubles. It should be the same height, and it is 36 inches. So great job there. All right. Number 14. When are the players entitled to another warm-up after their match has been suspended? So let's say you're playing outside and it starts raining, just raining lightly. It's not, a complete downpour. How long should it be before you get a re-warm-up? So if you've played in the sectionals and you've seen me running around, and as soon as we suspend play, you'll see I always start my stopwatch. It's because I need to time how long we're going to be down, and one of the reasons is because you may be entitled to a warm-up. So the match is suspended for more than 5 minutes. If the match is suspended for 10 minutes or more, 15 minutes or more, or 30 minutes or more, what do you think the correct answer is? We have 56%, 61%. Wait for a couple more of you to give us your best guess. 69, and there we are at 70%. And actually, this one has two correct answers. So if you answered C or D, the answer is correct. The rule states if play is suspended for 15 minutes or more, the players are entitled. So C would be correct, as well as D. If it's more than 30 minutes, you would be entitled to it. The rule also states that the warm-up would be the same duration as the original warm-up. So if it was a 5-minute warm-up to begin with, then we would give you a 5-minute warm-up whenever play is resumed. So good job there. I think we have 3 more questions for you, and then I'll open it up to any questions you may have for me. All right, the next one you have is number 15. I'm in a non-officiated match. When can a receiver or a receiver's partner call a footfall on their opponent? And believe me, I get a lot of questions on footfalls. You know, when can I call a footfall? You know, who can call a footfall? So is it any time you see it? Is it never? Only when you're losing the match can you call a foot fault? Only after warning the server and it continues and it's flagrant? Or after you ask someone on a neighboring court to watch? When can you call a foot fault? So the replies are a little slow coming in here. I think you're thinking about it. Got the wheel spinning. We got 60% in, 65. 69, and there we are at 70%, 72%. So the correct answer is actually letter C. Only after warning the server and the foot fault continues, and they're so flagrant, and clearly obvious from the receiver's side, can you call a foot fault. Now keep in mind, if it's an officiated match and there's a certified official there, that they're the only ones that can call it. You'd have to call that person to the court, the official to the court. But in a non-officiated match, when there's no officials, that's in the friended court, and that's what it says. So again, I wouldn't be going around calling a lot of foot faults on your opponents, but it's okay to warn them. You might want to warn them a couple times as a courtesy. But again, if it's so flagrant after you've given them warnings, then the friended court says that you can, in fact, call a foot fault. Number 16. In a non-officiated match, when an opponent is using inappropriate language and doing other intimidating things, what could you do? So make your team captain aware of the situation. Tell your opponent off, pack your racket up and go home. Ask your opponent to stop their poor behavior. And if possible, call a neutral person to watch the match. Or E, would be A, B, and D. So sometimes this does happen in non-officiated matches, and you know, poor behavior is being displayed. It's unfortunate. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes we're put in that situation. So we just want to make sure, you know, we try to provide a little bit of guidance and best practices around some things that you should do here. So the answers are rolling in: 52%, 58%. 60%, 63. Wait till we get over that magic number of 70%. I seem to be stuck at 67, so a few more of you need to respond. There we go, 69, 70. One or two more answers in. 72%. All right, 74%. So the correct answer is actually E. Any of the 3 above, except telling your opponent off. So you certainly want to make your captain aware of the situation in case, you know, that they need to file a report depending on the behavior afterwards. Certainly you can ask your opponent to stop their poor behavior, let them know that you don't appreciate it. And if possible, if you can get someone who's a neutral person, sometimes that's difficult depending on where you're playing your match. But if you can do it, so that they can kind of witness it and observe it, that is helpful too. So the correct answer we were looking for was A, B, and D. Certainly we want to play the matches in good faith. We want to have a good time out there, but sometimes when people display poor behavior, it certainly can make it a little difficult to enjoy the game. All right, and last one we have is, when is the preferred time for a player to take a bathroom break during the match? And I get this question all the time. When can I go to the bathroom? Is it after the warm-up? Is it after the first game of the set? When a set break, right before match point, or in the middle of a tie break? When would be a good time to take a bathroom break? And believe me, I've seen it happen. I've seen the request in all 5 of these choices that I put down. So what do we have here? 61, 65, 72. Get one more answer in there. There we go, 74%. So 93% of you got it correct. The preferred time for a player to use the bathroom for a bathroom break is on a set break, if at all possible. That's when we prefer it. A friend at court also says that if you have, on an odd game changeover, if you have to, would be the second. And then certainly if it's an emergency, in an emergency situation. But, I do get that question a lot, where people want to come out and take a warm up or take a bathroom break after a warm up. You should use the bathroom before you come to court, because play should start immediately after the warm up. So after the first game of the set is really not a changeover. You change ends of the court, but we don't consider that a changeover. You're not really supposed to take a break. We do tell you can get a sip of water after the first game, but you shouldn't be taking a full break after the first game. Right before match point, I have had that request come up before, is, it's match point, and then a person says, I need to have a bathroom break. And I'm like, well, can you wait for match point? And in the middle of the tie break is not an ideal time for you to take a bathroom break as well. So that was the questions that were submitted and that were sent in. Hopefully you found that information helpful. I think there may have been some people that put some things in the chat box while I was going through the questions. So if you have any questions for me or anything that was in the chat box, I'd be happy to answer it.
So Dave, the first one that was in the chat box is regarding the receiving out of order question.
Yep.
You said you wait till the end of the game. What happens if it happens during a tiebreaker?
If it happens during the tiebreaker, it gets a little tricky. It depends on what the score of the tiebreak is. If it's if it's even, then it remains altered until after that point. If it's after an odd point, then they would revert back and would be corrected immediately. So it just depends on the score of the tiebreak.
Okay, the next question was who can make the call when a ball hits a ceiling in an indoor match?
When the ball hits the ceiling, it should be the person that the ball is coming towards should make the call, not the person that hit the ball. The person that the ball's coming towards, regardless of what part of the ceiling it hits, that's who should make the call.
Okay, and one more was when you have officials at matches roaming around, can they call a let if they're just roaming around?
The direction we give the officials is that they should only call a let if a player is in danger of falling on a ball. So if I'm the rover and I'm standing at the net post and the ball is rolling from a neighboring court and it's rolling right along the net, everyone can see it, nobody's going to step on it, I'm not going to call that let, because that's up to the 4 players on the court. Maybe it doesn't bother them, they can play through. Or one rolls along the back fence, no one's going to step on it, it just rolls. Sometimes it rolls to the neighboring court. I'm not going to call it. If someone sees it and feels that it bothered them, then they can call the let. But if it's right under their feet and they don't see it, I don't want someone to fall, someone's in danger, then the roving official should call a let in that case.
Okay, there's some more coming in here for you.
Okay.
So in question 17, you said that you listed out the preferred time for a bathroom break, but can they take it at any time?
Basically, as I said, the rule says the preferred time is during a set break. The second preferred time would be on an odd game changeover. And then it does say, emergency situations, if someone needs to go to the bathroom in an emergency situation, then you should let them go. However, if they're going to the bathroom 3 or 4 times during the match, that's going to become an issue. But the preferred time is on the set break. If not during the set break, at least on an odd game changeover. Again, just to not to ruin anyone's momentum during play, and to consider fair playness to your opponents.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Who calls a double bounce?
Who calls a double bounce? It would be, again, the person whose side of the court that it's on. They would determine whether it bounces twice before they were able to get to it. Boy, these
Okay.
are some good questions.
In doubles, can the team's serving rotation and or court positioning, deuce versus add, change at the start of each set?
At the start of each set, yes. The receiving order can be changed at the start of each set. It also can be changed at the start of a super tiebreak, a 10-point tiebreak. You can change your service order, not during the start of the 7-point tiebreak, because that's still considered part of that set.
Okay. What is your advice when someone calls a hindrance because they feel their opponent was being too loud during the point?
I guess my advice would be is, look, I would talk to the opponent. If it's in a non-officiated match, I talk to the opponent, let them know that, they did hinder me. Again, it would depend on what the hindrance is. If they, go back to put a ball away and they scream out as the ball's coming towards their opponent, then clearly that's a hindrance. Or if they start to celebrate before the person we can see if the person has a play on the ball, that would be considered a hindrance. But again, in an unofficiated match, I would ask that you would try to resolve that issue with your opponent. Ask them to refrain from doing it. If they would continue to do it, then I would certainly claim the point at that point.
Okay. If a server serves a fault into the net, are they obligated to pick up that ball if it's on their own side of the net?
If the request comes from someone on the court to remove that ball before then they should remove it. If not, then they can just leave it there, as long as no one's in danger of falling on it.
Okay. Does anyone have any more questions for Dave?
All right, very, very, very good questions. Very good questions. And again, it's all about, giving your opponent the benefit of the doubt and going out there and having some fun out there playing tennis. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Dave, there's one more.
Okay.
In high school matches where there are no officials, oh, there's a few more coming in. Is it the best procedure for both high school coaches to act as a neutral person on the court?
Yeah, I mean, if there's no officials available, I've certainly made that recommendation to other high school coaches that if they can go out there and try to keep the peace and make sure that things run smoothly as a neutral person, then that's certainly helpful to do.
Okay. Is there any discussion about coaching change since the USTA allows it at the higher level in the professional tournaments? This is more about being able to talk to captains in situations like asking what's going on with your teammates' courts and other information such as that.
Yeah, it's something that's in the process of being discussed. I don't see an immediate change coming. I think down the road in the future, you may see the rules on coaching loosen up. Again, as an official, sometimes it's very difficult for us to make that call as we're watching the courts and we're trying to watch the spectators. It can make it very hard for us to try to see it. So that's why, if we perceive it, that's why we call it. I mean, you might just be going like this, pointing to your watch. Well, is that a hand signal that you're putting into someone? Are you asking what time it is, or what is it that you're asking? But no immediate changes that I'm aware of, but I know it is being discussed and being reviewed.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Very good. I'll turn it back over to you guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay,
Thanks, Dave.
thanks so much, Dave. That was very, very informative. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We have a couple slides here of Susan and myself and the Adult League coordinators. Okay, here we have the Adult League coordinators.
One before that.
And one before that. Okay, well, it was a fun one of me and Susan, but you can see us both here as presenters. I also want to, there we go. And then we would really like to recognize our captains on this call and just in general with a message that if we could go to that slide, Kristen, there we go. I'm just going to read this off because it's a very heartfelt thank you to you captains. League captains are the largest group of volunteers in the USTA. We know that captaining a team requires an incredible amount of time, energy, and patience. And we can't thank you enough for all the work you put in to help make USTA Leagues an incredible experience for everyone. It's because of your dedication and diligence that the program has grown and flourished in our section over the last few years. Your willingness to serve your team and the League's program in this leadership role amid all your other myriad responsibilities is greatly appreciated. So with that said, we will go on to the questions that were submitted by some of the registrants. Susan and I are going to kind of tag team on the answers. We combined some of the questions that were similar, and we got a fair number of questions, so we'll definitely try to get through all of them and whatever follow-up in the chat there is. And this whole presentation is being recorded, so everybody will get an opportunity to view that recording and as follow-up. Okay, so I'll start with question number 1. Will players be required to inform their captain if they or someone in the household has contracted COVID-19? Will captains be required to inform USTA of any COVID-19 occurrences with members directly or with someone in their household? Will the team members be informed by the captain? Okay, this is really a question that addresses the issue of contact tracing. So contact tracing is conducted by the state, not through the USTA. However, we encourage anyone who tests positive to inform those that they have been in contact with. Okay, so if we could get the next question. Okay, question number 2. Now that players are being vaccinated, some clubs have policies that all players have to wear masks. And I think this must mean including on the court, because it's been in place for a while now that you have to wear a mask in anywhere else except on the court. So how do we handle a visiting player that says they have been vaccinated and pose no threat when our club mandates all players wear masks? Does the USTA have an official stance regarding mask wearing? Well, the answer to this question be that the players must follow the rules set at each club, regardless of their vaccination status. USTA follows all state and local government guidelines as it pertains to mask usage. Okay. So you got question number 3. Let's turn it over to Susan.
So this one deals with self-rated players, and someone said that they feel like self-rated players are becoming an issue, a larger issue each season. While they understand that bringing additional players into the sport is an important part of growing the game, they want to know if we would consider implementing some restrictions on postseason play, eligibility for self-rated players, and possibly not allowing self-raters to play in the postseason at all. Starting in 2020, but actually because we didn't have championships, starting this year, the requirements for self-rated players have been increased. In order for a self-rated player to play in postseason this year, they're going to have to play at least 2 local matches in order to be eligible to play at local championships or regionals, and that includes no defaults. Then in order to play at sectionals, they'll need to play at least 3 matches, again with no defaults, and at nationals they'll have to play at 4 matches with no defaults. In all these because of this, it will help identify all out of level players before they get to the postseason, hopefully, by playing more matches. If we can go on to the next slide. Next question is, I played in the USTA League 1 year. I felt that the players were not rated properly. How can the system be established to rate players properly? Again, this is a very similar question. When players first start playing, they begin by self-rating. At the year end, they do establish a computer rating if they've played enough matches. And it's based on their wins and their losses and their scores against people who already have ratings. While the safe rating system isn't perfect, the system is designed to account for the past experience and player history. So it does try to take into account all the different scenarios. If a player's rating is way below their actual level, they will be disqualified based on their play. And again, that's what I was just talking about with playing more matches before postseason. So hopefully that answers the question. Okay, the next one is, I am a computer rated player. Can I appeal my rating? So computer rated players can appeal their rating by clicking on the auto appeal link in Tennis Link. They will immediately be informed if their appeal was granted or denied. The appeals range is very small in that auto appeal. So we believe that the NTRP system does work well in evaluating a person's playability based on their past play scores. So they try to keep this small to keep players in their levels where they belong. The only other option a computer rated player has would be to submit a medical appeal. These medical appeals, however, are very rarely granted and usually are only considered for injuries that are permanent and disabling to your tennis ability. Go to the, oh my gosh. Okay, so this is again another question regarding ratings. So the question we got was, with kind tennis being the theme of the past couple of years, a question has come up that focuses on players who are very rating conscious. When there's a very uneven match, if the winning team is the winning team penalized for winning 6-1, 6-1 versus 6-0, 6-0. Their thought is that no one feels good losing a match like that. So it seems that not being penalized for letting a couple of games slip away so as not to be completely demoralized an opponent wouldn't be such a bad thing. So their question is, will a really strong player, is a strong player's rating be lower if they win a match over a weak opponent 6-1, 6-1 instead of 6-0, 6-0? So the NTRP system, as I said, does take every game into account when calculating the ratings, and players should always compete at the best of their ability. With that said, sportsmanship, regardless of the score, should always be at the forefront of every match. So you can have a great match with someone and the score doesn't matter. It's all how your behavior on the court.
Okay, we have a few things that came up in the chat. Please clarify that's for adult leagues. Lynn, if you just want to type in which item you were referring to. I didn't quite see when this came in, if this was Dave's part or one of the questions. Okay, the self-rate. Yeah, everything that we're speaking about regarding self-rates is specifically addressing adult leagues. And if, yes, in terms of number of matches needed, oh, I see, not mixed or tri-level. Yes, if you're talking about advancement,
on the team.
Go ahead, Susan.
If you're talking about advancement, they have to play two matches on that team to advance to local championships or regionals. They have to play 3 matches on that team to advance to sectionals on a given team.
Yeah. And we have a question further on about some changes to self-rated players and eligibility. Somebody else put in North and Central New Jersey, we have 130 women interclub leagues. We also have a 56-team men's interclub league. Emails have captain's jobs easier. Would the USTA consider supporting such leagues? If this question is, would the USTA welcome these leagues as part of the USTA Leagues program, yes, that would be definitely we would. So I hope that answers what you were asking. Then we have one here. Is there any discussion of NTRP and UTR merging? At the moment, that would be a no. But we would, that's not really something, Susan and I are section league coordinators. That's above our pay grade. That's something that's more of a national item. So, you know, we can certainly get any follow-up information on that to you. Okay, so I think we're caught up in the chat. So I'll go on to question 7. Can 5-0 players still play in the 40 and over 4-5 league? Okay, this is a pretty straightforward one. The USTA has eliminated the 40 and over 4-5 plus and the 18 and over 5.0 plus leagues, meaning that only players at each level or a half a point below are eligible to play in those leagues. So that would be a no, that there can't be 5-0 players in a 40 and over 4-5 league. Okay, so the next question, 8. What is the highest league level in USTA Eastern? USTA Eastern offers all levels between 2.5 and 5.0. We may offer an open league in 2021, especially in some of the larger areas where we do have 5-5 players who can no longer play on an 18 and over 5.0 plus team. So their option if we don't have an open adult level would only be mixed doubles. Okay, question 9. Turn that over to Susan.
Yeah. Can players play in leagues in more than one region? And the answer is yes. Players can play in as many regions as they choose. So a lot of our regions are very close together and they can flip-flop across the regions if they choose to. Question number 10 is it possible to keep the roster size at 22 players or more? Now, I believe that this question probably came from Long Island since that is their roster size. But each region sets their league size limit in their own regulations, and with the maximum allowed in Eastern at 24 players. Some regions choose smaller team sizes than the 24 because they want to ensure that everyone who's rostered on the team gets sufficient play time and to make sure that there's enough leagues in the, enough teams in each of the leagues in some of the smaller areas. So there are reasons for larger and smaller, but we try to keep it, you know, so that teams don't have to default matches and so that players get enough play time. Go to the next one, please.
Okay, yep, question 11. I played matches on weekdays. Playoffs were on a weekend. Why is this? Well, while the local league play is set up in most areas on weeknights, because that tends to be the most convenient time for players overall. Championships, including playoffs, encompass a larger geographic area than the local leagues do. And there can be more matches than a local league match would have. So that really does not lend itself to evening play, as participants often need additional travel time and more time to do the playoffs may be needed. Okay, is it possible to keep the 40 and over women's leagues as 1-court singles and 4-court doubles? Well, the sectional and national for 2021 will be comprised of 1 singles and 3 doubles at that level. Each local league can be set up by the local league coordinator to best suit the needs of its players. And that basically applies to every adult league. If it is better suited to set it up a different format locally, that's fine, as long as knowing that once a team wins and advances, they will need to play at the national formats.
Okay. The next question is, will the USTA adapt the league requirements for the 2021 season? Singles courts total number of courts played, since there are players who are still not comfortable playing indoors and indoor settings. Will the 40 and over women's league be reinstated? So in most of the areas, the adult leagues will begin when and where outdoor play is available. Some areas are going to start before that, but we're trying to start as many of the leagues as possible when people can play outdoors. Although there are still many indoor clubs included in our leagues. Local league coordinators are reaching out to captains right now to see who's interested, and as well as their comfort level regarding future league play. We're hopeful that all age groups and all divisions will be run in 2021. And as Lauren just said, the format can be adjusted in any local league to fit the needs of that area. We can set up each league separately, as long as once we get to advancement for the 18 and over leagues, it will be 2 singles and 3 doubles. And for the 40 and over, it will be 1 singles and 3 doubles once you get to postseason. But we do have that flexibility.
Okay, question 14. Why does the league format, points won per match, change to total courts won for sectionals and nationals? It should be consistent. Well, points per position is intended to encourage play in the order of strength. The USTA Eastern rule states teams are encouraged to field their players for each team match in order of strength. Some local leagues utilize a points system for this reason, while other leagues still determine winners based on league wins, depending on what is best for each area. In addition, Tennis Link does not have the ability to set up championships in a points per position format. So at this time, we are constrained by that. And sectionals, and especially nationals, have to take into account the needs of all the areas, like it's sectionals of all of our regions and nationals of all 17 sections. Which they do, because there are many sections that don't use points per position at all. It's actually the least common way to set up a local league.
So we do have one more question in the chat, which is, are you expecting the summer leagues to continue using the smaller number of courts, 1 singles and 2 doubles during matches, or will it return to the pre-COVID number of courts? I think that at this point, we're assessing each local league coordinator is reaching out to their captains, but the hope is that we will be able to go to the traditional league sizes. But as I said, we are reaching out to the captains to see who will be able to do that. And, we should be getting that information back shortly.
And one of our coordinators made a comment that also some areas only use indoor courts and cannot use outdoor courts. So that's something that we're going to have to factor in with scheduling. If there just are not outdoor courts available for leagues use, then they'll need to go indoors.
And we'll have to assess the player, willingness to play indoors, depending on the area. Okay, so the question 15 is, why is there no national championship for tri-level 4.0, 3.5, 3.0, but there is for the 4.5 level? When tri-level was first started, it was only at the 4.5 level. And that's why that is the first national championship that was created for tri-level. USTA National has been discussing the possibility of adding a 4.0 tri-level national invitational. We hope that it will come in the future. We know everybody loves the tri-level. I think it's a great way for different levels of people to meet different, players that you don't traditionally meet playing. So I think it's a great program, and we hope that they do expand that tri-level national invitational as well. Okay. Number 16, in some of the other sections, such as New England, for the leagues with a large number of teams, they take multiple teams, seems like typically 2, from a local league and hold a district tournament to determine advancement to sectionals. Is this a format that Eastern has considered? So UST Eastern is set up slightly different than New England. New England utilizes district championships, while Eastern utilizes regional championships, in addition to the local playoffs. So it's really a very similar setup. It's just called something different. There's no real difference between the formatting. Okay, so we do have some questions in the chat, which is, what is tri-level? So tri-level is 3 courts of doubles. It's what the 4.5 tri-level is. There's 1 court of doubles at the 4.5 level. There's 1 court of doubles at the 4.0 level and 1 court of doubles at the 3.5 levels. And then the 2 out of 3 courts wins the match. We also offer it at the 4.0 level, which is a 4.0 court, a 3.5 court, and a 3.0 court. Okay, we want to move on to the next.
Yep. What can be done to get more higher level players in the USTA leagues? We struggle to get 4 or 5s in our league. Yes, we know, especially in some areas, that is a struggle because that's a high level and it's not as common. We're always, USTA Eastern is always trying to get new players to join our leagues. And as it pertains to 4 or 5 and above, we are currently reaching out to past tennis on campus players, previous college players, trying to invite them to participate and enjoy, this type of team competition format, which they already have played in school, and they already, know it and love playing on a team. So we do definitely make marketing efforts to try to get in the higher level players into the leagues. Okay, question 18. Need a strategy to diplomatically and hopefully successfully address player who makes flagrant line calls, even calls the ball out before it hits, this must mean the ground, in order to win. A scenario when no ref present and player's partner states she should not see the ball. I mean, this, I think they've somewhat covered this. But, if during a league match an irresolvable dispute arises between the players about the accuracy of calling lines or other issues, it really becomes irresolvable. Any player may suspend the match and request a couple of court monitors to be present for the remainder of the match. The players' respective captains are usually, or acting captains are usually the best candidates to do this. Otherwise, they can try to find somebody on site, some spectators that will be mutually acceptable to both of the teams. If there is no acting captain available, the players shall mutually designate a person acceptable to all players. If possible, 2 monitors are suggested. The monitors shall stand at the net post and make a line call or resolve any other dispute only if requested by any player. The monitor is not there to make every single call. They should not independently make a line call or any other ruling. For example, a footfall, a double bounce, anything like that. And the line call or the ruling of the monitor, when requested, shall be final, controlling, and not appealable. If there are 2 court monitors on the court and they disagree regarding a call, the call made by the player stands. And Dave, if you're still on and you have anything you want to add to that, we would welcome that. but maybe we covered it.
Sorry, I was muted, but yeah, you did a good job in covering it. I mean, the key to it is just trying to get the match played under the fairest conditions. And unfortunately, if that's what you have to do, try to get a neutral observer to come in. If there's not an official there, then that's what you may have to do.
Yeah, and that, sometimes players are very reluctant to do that, but you are entitled to, and often, the few times I've heard about it or even seen it, it does help to calm down the situation quite a bit and get everybody back on track, playing fairly and hopefully having a good time. Question 19. Susan.
Okay. So there have been reports that the USTA leagues will become more socially oriented rather than competitive with sectional and national championships. Is this accurate? So within the league program, there are teams of every competition level. There's some that are really just to have fun with their friends and go play. And there's others that are, out there to win and get to nationals. So players have the option to join on any team that they choose, ones that are more or less competitive, depending on the team philosophy. And they can really learn that by talking to the captain and understanding how how they run their teams. In addition, USTA does offer a wide variety of social leagues for the players who prefer a less competitive environment. We offer, social leagues, we offer team up events, things that are one-day tournaments, different types of things that we can get players involved in playing if they don't want to be in that more competitive environment. So we can, certainly help you find fun tennis that's not competitive if that's what you're looking for. And I think that's the end of our questions, but I think that, Lauren, there's a couple more left in the chat.
Yeah, there's one here. There's some contradiction with that, though, because we aren't supposed to talk to anyone outside of the court. Okay, this is referring to getting a court monitor. Yes, that is true. You're not supposed to be interacting with anybody except the people on the court, but this is one exception. And you need to inform everybody on the court that you are going to go, you want to request a court monitor and are going to go do that. And if there is any concern that you think they're leaving and going to get coaching or going to be going for a long time or what, go with them. Everybody can go together and find the monitors. That's what I would advise.
Okay.
And the only thing I would add to that, again, it shouldn't be after what you perceive to be the first bad line call. This would be after a pattern of line calls and you asking them, questioning the line calls before it would come to that. But, it shouldn't just be because of the first close call you don't agree with and you say, look, I'm going to stop and go get a court monitor. Again, you want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and do your best to keep the match going. But again, if a pattern is continuing, then I would recommend that you do that.
Okay. There are a few more questions.
Yeah.
Why are the why are there less leagues in New Jersey than in other areas? Lauren, do you want to grab that one since you're...
Sure. In New Jersey is 9 counties. It's divided up into 4 areas. And some of those areas overlap with middle states, which is the rest of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, some, directly to our south. And so wherever we are bordering with another section, there is some crossover. So that affects the league population. A lot of players do play in both sections, which is, completely allowed and encouraged. But it does also make for a little bit of competition between the sections of where the players want to play.
Okay, the next question is, we keep hearing that Tennis Link is going away and it's no longer being used for juniors. The plan is that Tennis Link is going to be replaced at some point, but it is several years off for the league product. We will continue to use Tennis Link, for the next probably couple of years. It is, in development, but the league product app is so complex that it's going to take some time to build out. So we're going to stick with Tennis Link for the next, year to 2 years, and everyone will be informed when that change is going to happen, but it's not in the foreseeable near future. Next question. Does the USTA offer any play more socially oriented in the style of WTT? Some of our social leagues do change the format up, and I don't know if they follow exactly a WTT format, but we are open to creating any social leagues that people want to play. So if people want to do that and you have a group of friends, we can create that. The great thing about social leagues is it doesn't have to be a certain number of weeks. You don't have to play a certain number of matches. We can create and format it to suit whatever needs that people have. And however they want to play.
All right, so we have one here. Due to COVID, some parks have closed restrooms. If a league match is at a park, will the restrooms be required to be open? Well, we did have a few instances of this last year, and we requested that the facility, if they did not have, restrooms they felt they could open based on their own, regulations because of COVID concerns, that they could provide a place that restrooms nearby where restrooms were open. Nearby meaning, a couple minutes walk, so that players could have access to a bathroom if necessary. So I think that's everything in the chat, unless anybody else has any other questions.
No more questions.
Okay, going once. All right, well, that's pretty much perfect timing. It's almost 9 o'clock. So thank you everybody for getting on, especially at this late hour.
Thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah, and thank you so much to our co-presenters, Dave and Dr. Colvin and Katie for doing the trivia. And we look forward to a good 2021, hopefully.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.